Mm. Let's get it, boys. Make sure you guys drop a like, show some love. A good evening, a good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. Today we are jam-packed with some incredible guests from Read and Reaction. We got Will, we've got Nick, and of course, we got the man himself, Hollywood Swoderquist, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have all of you here. We are about to blow this non-existing roof off and have a fantastic show. So sit back, relax, grab yourself some booze, and let's get right into it. Will and Nick, happy to have you, gentlemen. How was your weekend?
Well, I mean, it would have been better if we had some recruits come in, I suppose. But it was still a good time, man. A lot of good that happened this weekend, I'm sure, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But hey, let's get some commits sometime the next week or two.
Yeah, I was hoping it'd be a little more jubilant, guys. I was hoping for a little more of that. So
that's my guy. He saw the tweets. He saw the tweets, baby. I love it. Dave, how was your weekend, big guy?
It was good, man. Another day at the pool. It is always the best day of the week. And hey, you know what? I just hashtag Jubilee next weekend instead of just Jubilee weekend.
There we go.
We'll keep it moving.
Let's get it. Let's go.
Let's get it, boys. We're going to have a great show. We have a jam-packed show. A lot to go over. We're going to talk about Read and Reactions magazine, which is absolutely incredible. I'm going to let these guys do their work and talk about that. We're going to talk about this weekend. We're going to give you our thoughts, all four of us. Again, the good, the bad, the ugly. After we've had a chance to cool down a little bit, give you more of a level-headed response to everything. We've got some Austin Simmons news. We've got some Florida, Georgia, their new stadium. I'm sure you guys have already seen it going all over the place. Really cool. The good things that came from this weekend, we got a little more insight on that. We're going to talk about some FSU stuff. Obviously, we'll pass it over to Holly. There's an NIL prep league coming out. Seems pretty interesting when we talk about that. NCAA, the 2024 sports game, may never happen now after we getting hyped up for all these years. So we're going to get into a lot of stuff today. So again, we're going to have a fantastic show. We've got 80 people in here. Make sure you guys drop a like, show some love. And without further ado, gentlemen, let's talk about this magazine that you guys, your second volume, as I learned on the precast that you guys dropped. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it's 72 pages. It's Gator-only content. Last year, Nick and I sort of got together and put together a digital version that you could order online, get as a PDF. You can do that this year as well, but also we've got hard copy versions that are available for pre-order. We're actually doing a second print. We sold out of the first print. We're doing a second print right now. So if you go over to the website, readandreaction.com/mag, you can pre-order that, get that by about the 4th of July. But really, the thought process here is that, you pick up Athlon, you pick up Lindy's, you pick up Phil Steele. They're great magazines, but there's only a page or two about Florida, right? And so we decided we write about Florida. We love Florida, and so hey, let's do something where we're encapsulating everything that is Florida and really give it a read and reaction twist, so that there's statistical breakdowns, film breakdowns, all sorts of stuff in there that people can get.
So I kind of want to give you my perspective, if it matters. So I'm a procrastinator. Typically, I wait till like the last day to do my homework. And I was like, you know what? Let me get ahead of myself. So like a few days ago, I downloaded the magazine. Like, let me go through this thing. Let me see what's going on here. I should have started a week ago, boys. This thing was thick, okay? My computer slowed down when I downloaded it. I was like, my goodness, the amount of information that is in this thing. I was like, these guys put this together. Like, it is absolutely incredible. That's why that video I was showing you, I wanted to show it off. I was like, how do I show this thing off? Like, it is too cool. Like, there's so much knowledge in there. One of the things that really intrigued me, and if you guys could talk about it some more, obviously, I didn't write it, so I'm trying to gather what it is. But you guys are breaking down the offensive plays of what Anthony was, the offensive side. Like, here's what was supposed to happen. If the defense does this, he goes to this route. I mean, it is, and you'll see kind of in the video, but can you guys explain that a little bit, kind of your thought process and just what that little section was about? It's really, really cool.
Yeah, so that was one that I put together. It was it really was, people have doubted whether Billy Napier is a good offensive coordinator. And what I wanted to do is go through a game where Florida's offense was clicking. So that Tennessee game, clearly it was clicking, and understand what he was doing on some of those plays to isolate certain things in the defense. There's a great play where they essentially ran crossing routes across the middle and then a little hitch back behind it. And that play is going to be a staple this year with Graham Mertz, just because the crossers deal with man-to-man coverage and the hitch in behind deals with zone. And if the quarterback recognizes that it's man-to-man, or if he recognizes that it's zone, he always knows where to go with the football. And somebody's always going to be open. He's always going to have a one-on-one somewhere. There's always going to be a hole in that zone. And so, there's been a lot of criticism about Billy Napier being his own offensive coordinator, but obviously with all the turnover they got on the offensive line, they can use those 2 offensive line coaches. So this was just a look, and it was probably, 6 or 7 different plays that took you through the whole Tennessee game. And quite honestly, as amazing as it was that Anthony Richardson threw for 400 plus yards, he actually missed some stuff out there too, which is kind of comforting when you think about what might happen this year for Florida.
So I want to point out too, my favorite part about the play layout was that Will also put in a QR code. If you see it at the top right of the screen.
Yeah, this is the page right here. Yep.
And so at every play we go over, there's a QR code where you can actually pull up the play and watch along with it. He found the link on YouTube, so you could watch the play, watch Will break it down. I mean, the way I did it, I would watch the play, read the breakdown, watch the play again, read a little more. I probably watched the play 3 or 4 times by the time I was done with the sheet. But I love that feature, and that's something I think people will enjoy.
Oh, dude, we're gonna have to get you guys back on during the season, because that's just absolute juice and cheddar. I love that. It also, too, guys, this is an incredible. This is just a few pages that we're talking. How many pages is it? It's a lot.
It's 72.
I would say 72. I think. Yeah. So the link's in the description. If you guys go check it out, go scoop it up for yourself. It's really, really cool. If you guys want to go grab it, I think that's just a PDF file. I don't think it's the hard copy, right? Or is there options on there?
So you can get both. There's 2 links on there. One's for the hard copy, and then one's for the digital.
Okay. Fantastic. Dave, were you going to say something? Sorry, Bob.
We actually sold out. We sold out our first round. We're doing a second run here. It'll be about July 4th that people can expect the next round, correct? They get their order in before next Friday. Yep.
Yeah, selling like hotcakes there. I remember I interviewed you guys last year over this magazine. It looks like y'all added a whole lot more from last year's magazine to this one. I mean, you go through the table of contents, you got like a season review. Why was Florida's defense so bad? Championship history, Spurrier and Meyer, roster breakdowns, film breakdowns. And that's just like a few. I looked at all the sections. There's 37 sections in this magazine. So if you're really one of those guys that you like to read all about the Florida Gators, and of course, I'm glad you guys released this a couple months before the season, because this is going to take a while to read. But, man, it is worth every single just penny to even read this whole thing, because I read the last year's. I have not finished this one because there's a lot in there, so I'm trying to skim away at it when I get time outside of work. But
my computer's still downloading it.
I was about to say, I know you guys, I think it's like a 17.5 megabyte PDF file. That's pretty big.
We're breaking down the stats of the magazine. Got about a 6'4" magazine by 2 feet.
I haven't measured
17.5 megabytes. So. Weighs about 2.5 ounces, boys. Got a thick one here. Real quick, we'll get back to it.
I wanted to know. Wanted to know, like, there's so much in here. How long? Like, when did y'all actually first start from scratch on it?
We usually talked about, like, so last year when did we start kicking it around, Will? Like, we kicked around after the season. We have a postseason meeting in January where we kind of start breaking things down. We knew we were going to do it again, and we thought we wanted to do a hard copy. We weren't sure exactly what we were going to do, but I actually had to learn InDesign. I had never used InDesign before. I had to learn InDesign to do the magazine, and so that took a little longer this year. So we did get a little bit of an early jump on everything this year, but we were still writing articles, because you look at it, we can't cover the transfer portal. That's the one weakness with preseason magazines, right? There's so much flux in the roster that didn't used to exist. But so we can only cover up to a point. I mean, even on some of the recruits, I think for some of the guys who hadn't enrolled yet, I have on their jersey number TBD, because it wasn't available. It wasn't available on there. So we tried to go as far as we could with the information, but there was a cutoff point. I'd say we're writing for a good part of really March through May, right, Will?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it depends, right? So Nick did a really cool thing with some maps for recruiting that mapped out where the different recruits for the different SEC programs come from. Obviously, that's something you can map out in February, right? Now you got to get the formatting and all that sort of stuff done, but all that information is there in February. But when it comes to guys like RJ Moten coming in at safety, it's like, oh crap, I got to go revise that section because I already wrote about the safeties, and now we just brought somebody in through the transfer portal. I got to add that in there. And one of the things we probably will do, so we had there's some extra stuff that's going to be coming in the July timeframe as well. So that'll sort of be an update on the magazine as it currently sits. So people who buy the magazine will get a link to where they can actually see how to get that extra content too. So we'll be able to provide 5 to 10 more pages that sort of say, hey, this is our thoughts on the things that have changed since the magazine came out originally. Because obviously, I mean, geez, we had a change in defensive coordinator after our initial kickoff meeting in terms of when this stuff was coming. So it's been it's been a lot, but that's kind of the cool part, right? Is it's fresh, it's new, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and so hopefully people learn something, because that's always our thing. Like, our thing is we want to teach people something, and if the page, and Dave, you mentioned that it seemed like we have more in it. I'm not sure that we have more in it this year. In fact, we've culled it back quite a bit in terms of the total number of pages compared to last year, but we tried to make sure that every page counted this year, and that every page is aimed toward teaching somebody something. And so, this is something, I don't expect somebody to sit down and read this in one sitting, right? But I expect them to sit and page through 4 or 5 pages in June, and then go back to it in July, and then open up back to something they remembered when August comes around. And hopefully in October, you go back and look at it and go, wow, they were really right about that. And oh no, they got that one wrong. And we'll admit that too, right? Because we don't.
Nobody reads magazines on the toilet anymore, but this would be a good toilet read for sure. You kind of every time you go in, you knock a few pages out. You know what I mean? And that's no disrespect. That's the
award, the number one toilet read.
Yeah, so put it on top.
I think that's a huge compliment.
Okay, good. I was like, I don't want you to think that I was like, that was a genuine compliment. Like, that's some serious stuff there. Like, there's one magazine in that thing that doesn't carry magazines anymore. It's gonna be that one, boys.
So we've asked people to tweet it out, but don't tweet it out while you're on the toilet. I guess that
whatever you got to do. Real quick, we got a super chat from Chris Sorley. He said, "Oops, wrong button there." Says $10. Says it's truly a treat to listen to Hybrid High Top and Read and React pod. Cheers, gentlemen. Go Gators. Absolutely good stuff. And the last thing I want to ask is this page here. So you guys, is your Final Four prediction for both of you? I'm assuming.
Yes,
that is.
All right. Will, phenomenal Final Four. I think it's great. I think USC is going to be good. I think Texas is going to surprise people. Ohio State, obviously, and then Bama. Surprised Georgia's not in there, but don't hate it. Nick,
I can't put Georgia in the Final Four no matter what, man. It's just I can't.
I respect it. Nick, where the hell is Iowa coming from, bro? Is that a typo?
All right, so do you want to read a bunch of predictions? How many people are going to say Ohio State or Michigan, right? So I went through, and I'm looking for who's my TCU dark horse this year. And I'm going through. My background, my family, we're originally from Big Ten country. I grew up watching Buckeye football before I moved to Florida. And so I don't think about the Big Ten quite like Will thinks about the Big Ten, even though Will grew up in Big Ten country too, man. But he watched Hoosier football, so that's why he has a super low opinion of the Big Ten. He watched Indiana play too much. But Iowa just got McNamara from Michigan at quarterback this past year. But the real story is this. Pull up the schedule and tell me what games you're really scared of on that schedule. If that defense is nearly as good as it was last year, and they can have a halfway competent offense, could that be a team that goes through that schedule with one loss and then pulls an upset in a Big Ten title game? Am I going to die on that hill? No, I'm not dying on that hill, but I thought that was a good dark horse candidate, and
okay.
I threw that in there. But yeah, do I want to make any significant bets about the Iowa Hawkeyes making that run?
Hold on, guys.
Probably not. But
Nick might be onto something here. I'm looking at the schedule. So Utah State at Iowa, W. Iowa State, it's going to be a big game. That one's always going to be a nail biter. It is what it is. But that's a Big 12 game. It's honestly a wash, right? Because it's so early in the season. No big deal. So we'll push it away. No big deal. Western Michigan, W. Penn State, going to be a big game. 7:30 game, probably going to be a whiteout game. You got to win that game. If they win that game, here they come. Because they play a deflated Michigan State team at home, W. They play Purdue, W. Wisconsin with Luke Fickell, going to be tough, but they lost their Heisman quarterback in Graham Mertz. Right. So who knows how good they're going to be, right? Then they play Minnesota at home. I think W there. Northwestern, W. Rutgers. Illinois than Nebraska? Boys, Nick
Which one
might
are
have
you
just
scared of?
He might
Which
have
one
just
are you
cracked.
scared of?
He might have cracked the code. I might have spoke too soon there. You're not wrong.
So no. So Nick is correct. If you're a gambler, this has good odds. So take them to win the national title, and then right before that Penn State game, cash it out. Cash it out.
Yeah.
Well,
cash
that's
it
game
out.
3,
Because
Will.
You're not.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Four.
matter. Still cash it out. Look, you're not winning the national championship scoring 8 points a game. So
That's fair.
that's the biggest problem. I mean, hell, didn't they win the bowl game last year without scoring an offensive touchdown? Wasn't it like 21-0, and they didn't
Yeah,
score
I think-
a touchdown?
Yeah,
on offense?
Kentucky didn't have the all-world quarterback there, Will Levis. So
The mayonnaise
they
drinking
weren't as
Will
strong.
Levis.
They weren't as average on offense without Levis. So
The quarterback
was a
that
rough
gained like
outing.
40 pounds in 4 months.
Yeah, the clean quarterback. I love it, dude. Good stuff. All right, gentlemen, let's anything else about the magazine? Again, the link is in the description, guys. Go check it out. Please order it. Show these guys some love, and they put a ton of work into it.
Yeah.
And I think you guys would get an absolute joy out of reading. If not, I'm a picture guy. There's great pictures to look at too. So, plenty of things to do. Go ahead.
we appreciate you having us on and giving us a chance to talk about the magazine here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to either Will or I on Twitter. And if you got any feedback too, I keep saying this, we'd love to hear some feedback. Will, if you want to give, we're having people email Will for the feedback. If you want to throw your email out there, Will.
Yeah. Will@readandreaction.com. Pretty easy. And, we had plenty of people reach out with constructive criticism last year. That's one of the reasons why we're doing a hard copy this year, because that was one of the main feedbacks that we heard last year was, this is great, but we'd like to have it in our hands. And so now you have the opportunity to get it in your hands if you want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, they do phenomenal work, obviously. I read their magazine last year. I've been friends with Will forever. Nick Knudsen, probably a couple of years, just on the prowl there, Reading Reaction, their YouTube channel there, if you guys want to promote that one. But they do a phenomenal job. I love what they do. It's a lot of work. I mean, this magazine is probably a lot of work, and there's a lot of work in it. I have not been able to read it all, but I always try to read it because actually it helps me out when I do this. So now I have more info for myself.
Awesome. Now, I want to get your guys' opinion as well. We kind of talked about it a little bit. The greatest weekend that never was. Yet. Hashtag Heartbreak Weekend. We went from Jubilee Weekend to Heartbreak Weekend. I want to get your thoughts and opinions. I think this is good. I think to have multiple Gator thoughts and reaction after, what was supposed to be a big weekend. Let me start with this. Let me ask you guys this, and Dave's been spicy all day, so I'm afraid to go to Dave. To be honest with you, I don't know. The mic might break. Everyone's frustrated, as they should be, because I think part of us, me included, we hyped it up to be a big weekend, which it was. The expectation was also to land a few, which we did not. Would you consider it a loss that we didn't? But if they commit later on, we're going to be kind of like, all right, that was a waste of time. Or do you feel like we missed the ball on not getting a recruit this weekend? I'll let you go first, Nick.
Yeah, obviously you want to close the deal, right? I mean, how many times do you need to hear that Florida's great, Billy's great, everything's great? And by the way, it is. We know that, right? We know that. But I'll tell you what, the one thing I went through the magazine too at the end of it, I ended it with I went through and compared to the Bobby Bowden era, Tom Osborne. You look at some of the legends in this sport, it took them a long time to get to national title status. It was a build, right? And just preaching patience. And, I do think overall we need to be patient with the development here. That being said, is the animal brain side of you, are you a little disappointed? Can you say that you're disappointed that you didn't get a single commit this weekend? I think that's okay. I think that's okay to say that. But at the same time, we've seen this about this time last year is when everyone started to freak out about the class. And then what happened? It slowly started to build. It slowly started coming together. So we might have to be more patient than we want to be. But at the same time, I would have liked to see us close at least one or two this weekend. That would have been nice to see.
Will?
I mean, they should have freaked out about the class last year. So I went back and found one of my articles from last year, June 25th. They had 8 recruits, 4 4-stars, 4 3-stars. And the average was 88.9. So you look at where they were last year, and that build you're talking about got them up to around 92. but it was still like, it looked rough. June 25th last year. We're not even in the middle of June at this point. Florida's got 8 commits. 94.04 is the overall rating. And so I've done a lot of work where basically September 1st is kind of where that you've got enough recruits to where one recruit isn't going to swing the rankings one way or another, and you sort of know where you're at. Now, no school in the SEC East other than Georgia has had a ranking above 92 since, Florida obviously last year was a little bit above 92. Other than that, everybody's been around 91 or below in the SEC East, except for Georgia. And so if you can be up around 94 by the time September 1st comes around, who cares what happens in June? So, they're laying groundwork here. They have to get the groundwork. You have to finish, right? And they didn't finish 2 years ago when it came to Harold Perkins. They didn't finish last year when it came to Okunlola and when it came to Jaden Rashada, right? Though that one's a little bit weird. And now, they're going to have to close with Lagway and Hayes and some of these other guys they've got coming in. But it's interesting. One of the things in the magazine I looked back at was Urban Meyer's second year and looked at that class. And Tebow, Harvin, and Spikes accounted for 11 all SEC seasons out of 15 for that bump class. They got a couple from Brandon James, but basically those 3 were the drivers for everything that happened in 2007, 2008, and even in 2009. And so if they bring in Smith and they bring in Lagway and they bring in Graham and Hayes, and one of those guys turns into the equivalent of Brandon Spikes, well, then you're right where you were coming out of same general feel coming out of that bump class for Urban Meyer. So it's a year late, but I look at it and I go,
so you're saying a natty in 2 years. Everyone just sit tight. It's what you just said.
There you go, man.
So many words.
Hey, I'll take it, man. I think competing with Georgia, like really competing with Georgia in 2 years is a reasonable expectation, right? I think this year we all expect that to be an L. But next year, I don't think it's reasonable to say that you're going to get your butt kicked by Georgia again. At some point, you got to start turning that around, and one of the places you turn that around is at quarterback. So, they got Lagway coming in. Obviously, there's some chatter going on with Simmons, but they've got some guys coming in who are high level quarterbacks, and one of those guys is going to have to turn out.
So I wanted to ask the question too of this year changed. The rules changed with official visits. Kids have unlimited official visits now. You got to think that plays a factor. That didn't play a factor last year. A little bit. Not a big one, but I think we had a lot of studs on campus, a lot of 5-stars, a lot of top guys. They're not going to pick their first school they go to. That would just be absurd. You wouldn't want them to, I don't think, right? That would be absurd. No matter how good it is, right? You're going to have to go shop around. I think that's where we have to expect. Again, I think we expected maybe like a Chris Jones, maybe like an Evans from the Texas A&M. I think those are the ones that we were kind of like looking for. So that one is a head scratcher. But those guys have official visits left too. So again, I don't think we should panic just yet. But there is frustration. I've read the comments. You've got some people are like, nope, fail. Leave me alone. Don't bother. And some people are like, hey, like it's okay. Like nothing's bad has happened, right? Sometimes no news is good news, to be honest with you. And that's kind of, I think, where we're at. Dave?
Yeah, as far as like the news that you talk about in Florida Gator world, no news sometimes, and most of the time is good news. So,
yeah,
I'm just waiting it out. Like me personally, like Will, he said the September the 1st thing. I'm waiting it out. I know it was upsetting not getting a commitment this weekend because I figured at least one would pop. Nobody popped. That's why I said Jubilee next weekend instead of Jubilee weekend because of that. But you waited out, and you got a good start. Like Will said, you got a good start. 94 player average. Probably the highest average we had in this month, probably in a long time. So as a Florida Gator fan, I'm pretty happy right now. But at the same time, I just saw Clemson rake in Sammy Brown and another 5-star wide receiver. Just
out of Tampa
recruits in one weekend. And of course, it was their only visit weekend that they had. But still, like you raked in 3 of them. One of them from Tampa, TJ Moore. So it's like, okay. Like where we need to see this here at Florida, especially if we're competing with Georgia everywhere in the East. And also, by the way, I'm going to spoil another page of this magazine. This is what we're up against, guys.
I almost put that in.
I had to show that real quick.
Look, Dave, yeah. I love your perspective, man. I think the guys in the chat, they're going to appreciate your mindset. Like, look, I'm a little frustrated because other guys are doing it, and if we want to compete with that page of the magazine,
you have to play Georgia every year, and that's your only way to get to the SEC championship. and the only way to get to a national championship. So you have to recruit at a higher level because they have a Nick Saban on the West. They have a Kirby Smart on the East. So you have to recruit at elite level. It's got to be top 5 or better.
Told y'all Dave was fired up today, guys. Go ahead,
actually, one of the in the map section, what I liked about that was that you really see Georgia came down here for 9 players last year. They came into our state and took 9.
Yep.
If you add up over the last 5 cycles, the top 20 players in the state of Florida, Alabama and Georgia have combined to take 37% of those players. Florida State, Miami combined 32%. The big 3 are getting beat up by those 2 programs. And if you're letting Georgia, and by the way, Georgia's also taken 25% of their top 20 players over the last 5 cycles. So they're taking theirs and they're taking ours right now. So that's the
having their
simplest
cake
way.
and they're eating it too is what Nick is saying, ladies and gentlemen.
I think I wrote that they're eating their lunch, they're eating our lunch, they're eating our dinner, and they're going back and having their own as well. So it's a little tough when it's like that. But I think Dave has it nailed though, because really Georgia, I think, has driven a lot of the angst that's occurred within Gator Nation here. Because if Georgia was rocking 8-4 records like they were our entire lives growing up, I don't know all y'all's exact ages, but probably fairly accurate, like the 8-4, 7-5, hearing about how good they're going to be, and then they go 8-4 or whatever. If that was still going on, we probably couldn't. I mean, hell, maybe Dan Mullen's still around. We're talking about developing players, but
Muschamp's still
there
here,
needs to be that talent on the roster. I know Will's been beating that drum for years now, and that's something that it's you see the program has made that total commitment, and I don't think that can happen over that a flip like that just doesn't happen overnight with the program. And unfortunately, we have to be a little patient and wait our time a little bit.
Well, it does for winning programs. That's one of the problems. Like Napier's building, but the question is he winning? Is he going to build fast enough? And I think people have to give him patience based on the hope we're seeing for this 2024 class. But the reality is just about every SEC championship coach has a monster second recruiting class, and Napier didn't have that. So people have talked about NIL and maybe that delays when that monster class is and things like that, and we'll see. The one place that I would say there's probably a little bit of hope for is in terms of these visits in this past weekend, is that if you think about negotiations and you think about leverage, like you always have more leverage when the negotiation is about to come to a close, right? When there's an actual date and a deadline. And so I think that NIL may end up pushing back some of the decisions for these guys, right? You go on your 5 official visits, and in the past, you just at that point you make a decision because you've already gotten your bag that was buried somewhere with whatever amount of cash was in it, and you make your decision at that point. At this point, it's like it's all above board, right? Like these different NILs are essentially bidding against each other, and if that's what's helping you make that decision, well, are schools going to get desperate as they miss out on a couple of guys, and maybe they had a certain amount of money they could allocate to their entire class, and 2 guys commit, and now there's more money they can allocate to you? So the Live Golf and PGA thing that happened this week is actually a great example of that, right? Like the PGA is just sitting there banging on Live Golf endlessly until all of a sudden it looks like what happened is the PGA Tour just kind of ran out of money and said, oh crap, now we have to merge. and all morals and all scruples go out the window, and they decide to merge that. I think in some ways NIL is going to be the same way, right? Where you sit there and say, well, we're not going to get into a bidding war until all of a sudden you don't have anybody in your class, and you've got all this money that people have contributed to your NIL, and you haven't spent it. It's going to start burning a hole in people's pockets, and they're going to start upping the offers at that point. So if I'm a recruit and I'm somebody looking at the leverage to get the best deal, I'm waiting until the day before early signing day, because that's when I'm going to get the best deal on the table, and that's when I'm going to commit. We'll see if that happens, right? I mean, obviously Clemson's getting guys who are committing to their place, and so, but Florida has too. I mean, you look at it, Lagway and Hayes and Graham; those are all good players, and so I don't. Phil Simi is a good player too. So
Bowens.
Florida's gotten their share. The question will be, what happens to these guys who have sort of gone on a bunch of these official visits? Are they going to wait until right before early signing day to make that decision? I suspect that's one of the things that we're going to see, is that those decisions are going to start to get delayed because of NIL and the way things are moving in that direction.
Awesome. That's a great take, and I appreciate you guys giving your thoughts on that. Real quick, we got a super chat because you guys are noted in it. Says the kids absolutely love Jubilee Weekend. I think we'll end up pulling 5 to 6 kids from this past weekend. We'll just call it Jubilee Month. Billy's cooking, boys, great content as always. So
I like that.
Love the mindset.
Hopefully it's not Jubilee next month.
Yeah. yeah. I love it. Let's see here. Super chat real quick. One last one. $20 from Between the Hedges says Hedges may have lost a bet to High Top. You need to keep Gator Nation on board this year. Gators are headed in the right direction. If they get through this year soon, Uggo will be looking in our rearview mirror. So I've talked to him plenty of times, my buddy of mine. He's pretty understanding of like, look, it's a process, and he sees what's coming. He's like, look, it's bright. You just got to be patient. But Nick and Will, I really appreciate you guys coming on here. This was an absolute treat. I hope you guys will join us again. I think you guys are full of knowledge, and would love to have you on during the season and again during the summer to talk about maybe Jubilee month if that's what it turns out to be. But really appreciate you guys coming on here, man.
Thanks guys. Appreciate you having us on.
Yes, sir. You guys have a good rest of your week, man.
Bye.
Good stuff there, guys. That was cool. Oh, well, that's you never want to unwrap a gift to get that. No. You know what I mean? What happened? Everything was going so well,
yep.
And then now here we are.
Boy.
Oh man, all the chats went away, man.
Oh Lord.
Lord. What happened to all the people in the chat, guys?
Where'd they go, man?
Good show though. Good so far. How about those guys? Those guys are great. I loved it. They're really cool, man. Slew of knowledge. Steve, what'd you think, buddy?
No, that was fantastic. Look, we talked about it a little bit before the show went live. I'm a huge X's and O's guys. Yeah, they did a great job with the breakdown. I was looking at some of the pages that they were able to do with the publication. And like one thing I did want to point out for them, and they made a couple of points with, and even Between the Hedges, with the patience in trying to give some of these coaches an opportunity to get the ball rolling, get off the ground. They mentioned Tom Osborne and they mentioned Bobby Bowden. The expectations of a coach back then were not what they are now. These guys weren't making $5 and $6 million coming in without having ever won a game back then. Now they're paying you that money for somewhat instant gratification. Obviously, it's not going to happen, right? That's a perfect scenario. But man, to ask some of these fans with the amount of money the boosters are pouring in, especially now that you've got to give money to your booster organization for the school, but then you also have to kind of fund your NIL. The concept, and I think that's just in society as a whole, the concept of patience has lost its way. So, I mean, some of these coaches going into their second year or third year, depending on where they are, you got to start winning, or you got to start showing some real progress, or it's gonna get a little dicey.
It's dicey for sure. Cam, what's up, big dog? Good to see you, man. Happy to have you, Martha. We're gonna talk about Simmons here shortly, so sit tight. But first thing first, let's talk about. We kind of talked about it a little bit with Nick and Will, but the good. I put the silly Gator there after the crying Gator because we're getting a little silly. There was some good that came from this weekend. And I do want to talk about that of, again, the big guys that, look, if we can't land them, it'll pay off. All the hard work will pay off. And so first thing first is Jaden Jackson, kid from IMG. I think he's like a 3-4 star wherever you look. But he had a great time. Had a lot of positive things to say. 6'2", 300. He's a defensive lineman. Had a great visit. Dave's got some stats to talk about him and kind of the things that we can expect to see out of him. But really enjoyed his visit. So I'm excited to see what we can do with him.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He only really had one scheduled visit, and that was to Florida. I mean, he did reiterate that we was going to have plans to, get some other school scheduled, but he hasn't at the moment. Still hasn't at the moment. So it's kind of interesting to follow. He does say he wants to commit before his senior year and all that, and he hasn't really played that many games there at IMG, just about 4 games. It's not really a big breakdown of statistics on him right now. Just that's why his ranking's so low right now. But he's an interesting prospect, man. He's one of those guys that, like, if you watch some of the film that he had, he jumps out to you on tape, and you wonder, where could he be ranked if he has a senior year? Like, where could he be? And I think he's got a Polynesian Bowl invite, too, if I'm not mistaken. So I know he had a good visit. All the recruits had a great visit. Like, from what I know and from what I've asked multiple people, it's like the parents were really impressed. And those are the people you really have to impress is the parents. Like, the parents are probably the number one key in every kid's recruitment. And all the parents came away impressed. He did too. But he's one of the big targets that Florida's after. And, he's maybe top 600 now, but maybe he could put himself in the 300 range or something like that. Kind of like a Najee Harris situation there last year with Najee Harris probably being like the 300s or so, and be kind of one of those underrated players. I mean, he plays at IMG, got to be, they play the best of the best, and they are the best of the best. The best of the best go to IMG to go play. So his recruitment was pretty interesting, but as I said, man, he had a good time. He's still posting Florida Gator stuff out there. So
yep,
that's a good thing.
Good stuff. Hey, real quick, Steve, read your super chat here, buddy, from your boy there.
Oh, sorry. Here.
It's up on the screen.
Arlen, where we at, buddy? Tell them what's up in Tally Hall. This is for you and only you. Oh, baby, you know what's up in Tally, baby. That's the city of Seven Hills. Tallahassee Lassies, my gosh, you know what's going on. We'll get into it here in a minute. We got a little segment for FSU. Get off of me. You know good and well you carved that out of a sentence. You've held on to it for too damn long, Sheldon. All
right, guys, moving on. The other good thing that came out this weekend was Jordan Ross made a lot of headway with him. I think he rated the weekend at 8 out of 10, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that was...
Was that McCray? It was either him. No, I think it was him. It was Jordan Ross.
He said, no, Ross said 10 out of 10.
We'll agree to disagree. Some stats there: 16 tackles for loss, 2 touchdowns because he played both sides of the ball. Runs a 4.6 40, kind of as you guys can see there. But again, somebody who was low on the radar. We kind of mentioned him leading up to Jubilee weekend, and then came out of it. We'll say it was a 10 weekend. But Dave,
yeah, he actually is one of the guys that did say 10 out of 10. I just
okay. All right. I apologize.
But this is an interesting quote from his head coach that I had found. He said, if he stays healthy, he should make a lot of money one day. He's an NFL talent that hasn't even scratched the surface of what he's going to be one day. So, and I hear a lot of people that said there's more room for development for Jordan Ross. And if he's already up there in the top 35 almost range of 5 stars, and that means he's probably a pretty good player, especially when he develops down the road. But yeah, 49 tackles, and as he said, 16 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. He had a bunch of forced fumbles, 2 defensive touchdowns. He does visit Georgia this weekend, but he does visit Texas and Tennessee followed by that. He did give his visit a 10 out of 10, Sheldon. So he does talk about academics.
Sorry.
And he did say, like, the coaches had, like, real energy instead of fake energy. So he kind of, like, I guess he believed in, the energy that the coaches had, what they were telling him all. So overall, like, a great visit for him. And, of course, you want to impress any kind of 5-star, close to 5-star, top 50 player that comes to your campus. So I think that visit actually kind of put Florida a little bit more on his radar there. And, of course, I think if you go to his profile, it's like I don't know. There's so many schools that they say is quote unquote warm for him. So he's going to be one of those guys that you're just going to have to beat out some of these really, elite schools at recruiting, like Georgia, like Texas. So, and Tennessee's even getting up there. So we'll see where that one goes. But man, I loved what I heard. I loved what I saw, and just going to have to keep chipping away at him.
I love it. Yeah, Jacob did confirm 10 out of 10 from Ross. But love that we made some moves on it. So look, you got to realize, like, going into this weekend, we weren't high on his radar. So that's a W from this weekend, right? 10 out of 10, had a great visit. Yeah. And you keep hearing the words genuine, real. That's something we've heard from a couple of parents, players. What does that mean? I don't know. But obviously it's good things, but hopefully that translates into guys wanting to play with somebody they can believe in, right? So next is LJ McCray. I thought this guy was going to pop from Friday morning, dude. I mean, he was liking our tweets. He was posting "Scared money don't make money." I mean, he was.
Don't fall for that one.
I thought we were locked and loaded on this one, and I'm not saying that we're not. Something to note. I don't know if you're going to have this in your notes, Dave, but McCray is also, he plays at the same school as Zay Mincy, who we have been crystal ball to land as well. So it feels like it feels right. It feels right. What do you think, big guy?
Yeah, you ever hear of those package deal sort of things? Like usually the package deals, when they say package deal, don't really turn into package deals.
Never.
Nobody's really
I learned last year they never work out.
Yeah, they do play at the same school. I actually lost my notes for LJ McCray, but I know that he did have a great visit, and he did post a lot of Florida Gator stuff. But Florida State's lurking around the corner there too, so you got to watch out for them. But I think a lot of these kids, obviously, they want to get this commitment out of the way before their senior year starts. I think he's kind of one of those guys too. So I mean, we'll just have to figure out. So you didn't really hear, like I saw a little bit from LJ McCray, but not as much as I saw from all the rest of the commits. But also I did not look to see what he said in his interviews or anything either. I was pretty much paying attention to something else at the time. So that's my bad, guys.
We'll let it slide. Good stuff, though. I mean, again, good things to take away. So love to hear all that good jazz. All All right, before we get into the Simmons news, guys, I know you guys are chomping at the bits. This is a last-minute ad. We wanted to talk about it. It's pretty exciting. Is the new home for the Florida-Georgia game. So the new Jaguars are getting a new stadium, but here's a quick little look of basically the futuristic look of what it's going to look like for Florida-Georgia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jacksonville or been to that game, but the stadium is pretty trash. And so this edition looks cool. I love the fact that they put the orange and blue. They even had a rendition of TCU versus Georgia. So obviously with this move, this stadium could be a home for a Super Bowl. I definitely see the Super Bowl coming back to Jacksonville. They're working on building 4 seasons. I could see us hosting a national championship, getting a little over the top here. But seeing this, obviously we signed a contract through 2026, I believe, for Florida, Georgia to remain in Jacksonville. They're supposed to be basically shutting down for 2 years. So we will see Florida and Georgia more than likely in the near future, the next 5 years, in the Swamp and in Athens. But this tells me, like, look, they're really going all in. Jags aren't going anywhere. If you're Florida, Georgia, how do you not want to play in a stadium like this? It's basically SoFi 2.0. So
that's going to affect Kirby's recruiting, man. Didn't you hear?
Yeah, he's nervous. No, I don't think it'll be turf, guys. I think the turf war is done, but I haven't heard much on that, to be honest with you. But just wanted to show you guys that. I think it's gonna be sick. It's Steve's favorite weekend of the year, and I thought this was just a really cool graphic to show you guys. So nothing more on that though. Dave or Steve?
No, I like it.
Anything? Okay.
I was just gonna say I kind of look. It looks like it's gonna have a retractable roof.
We were trying to figure that out. Is if it's going to be covered. It looks like it's going to be covered in possibly like a little slider that will go over the glass. And if you've ever gone to a game in Jacksonville 1 o'clock, it is absolutely miserable. So, yeah, this is going to make this game even more enjoyable as well too. I would love to go. Yeah, tickets used to be cheap. Good call, Ricky. Tickets are usually cheap.
They're going to be expensive now.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun, just quick little Jag game to go to anymore, unfortunately. But it is what it is, my boy.
But the one thing I will say is I think this is a joint effort between not only Shad Khan, the owner of the Jags, and let's be honest, at this point, probably about a third of Jacksonville, but also from the city of Jacksonville to make a contribution to get this stadium built. They want to keep this game here in town. And if they don't make the venue better and they don't make the experience better for both teams, they're not going to keep it, right? And there's already a lot of movement going on in college football. There's already a lot of talk. I mean, hell, we were just last week on here talking about, is it going to be 9 games, 8 games, 14 games, 32 teams in a conference, right? There's going to be so much movement here over the course of the next, a couple of years with just, conferences and teams. If they don't give them a platform, that they're not going to be here, right? But if they can give them, they being, the city of Jacksonville and Shad Khan, if they can give Florida and Georgia a platform similar to what Atlanta has up in Mercedes-Benz, or what Dallas has been able to do out with AT&T, and just make the stadium and the game environment itself so electric, then there's a possibility this game stays. Without this type of commitment from the city and just the overall commitment to the game itself being here, it's gone. It would be gone. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens if that rendition of what we just showed is a true indicator of what that game would look like. Who doesn't pay the premium ticket? And
Sure.
I mean, you can see that there's suites on the first level. There's a big open second level right there on the 50-yard line. I mean, that's going to be an exciting game that both teams will want to play in, especially now that you can
even around it is the exactly. Stadiums in general are getting better about creating the surrounding area like a little village. Right now, if you go to Jacksonville, it's just parking lots and just death around it. So
I think you and I, Shelton, went to a Jags game, and I want to say that the film that we put out with some of the interviews from the players, from the fans, we were literally outside of a silo. We were on a parking lot. It's called the Slab. It was just Slab. Yeah. We were outside of literally like a stone silo.
Martha says, Shelton, you look tired tonight. I am the exact opposite. I am beyond fired up to be here. I'm jittery as all could get out. Before we move on, we have some breaking news.
What happened?
Quick news update for all of you that are joining us here today. Just wanted to stop in and say hey and let you know that Holly's a bitch.
Oh, my Lord.
Yes! I created this just for that, Steve. Just for you. To remind you, Steve, suck it. Okay, back to the show as we were.
What the fuck?
You can bro, Steve saw that. He goes, oh, what's that? I go, oh, I can't tell you. He's like, oh, I'm excited for that.
Man, you made everybody think that we got a commit or something, man.
Bro, the great...
I got on Twitter. I was like, what just happened? I got to look.
Oh, this is the... I'm done.
Twitter didn't read
I'm not.
Holly's a bitch,
guys,
but-
that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. All right, let's... They loved it.
I was going to say real quick
They
about
loved
the
it.
Jacksonville thing. I was looking
ahead,
it up. It's a 2021 article, but it does say that the city of Jacksonville made $700,000 in revenue after paying everybody that you got to pay. You make $700,000 in revenue. I mean, it's a lot of revenue for Jacksonville, so they're gonna want to keep that game there somehow. And if they're talking about like doing the home and home thing, oh, we better renovate this stadium, man, because it's a big game and we want the game to keep coming here. So it's good for the Jacks too. But go ahead, with your Holly's a bitch thing or whatever.
They love it. They said suck it, Steve.
What a blindside move by you.
Yeah, it was. That was vicious, by the way. That was vicious. And
Right?
vicious. Man.
I'm so happy that you're happy. I'm not happy at all that you're happy.
Oh, geez. I love it.
literally jumped on Twitter
Look
and
at
it
the
was
people
like,
laughing in the chat.
What I love,
you know
what I love more is the fact that you saw it. I didn't want you to see it. That you saw it, and then you were so excited for what it was going to be.
I was like, dude, that's the background you just dropped. We never used it before.
Hey,
I'm
look
like,
what
I don't know
Jacob
you're
said.
gonna use
Look
that
what Jacob said. Employee of the month vibes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he said it. He said it, not me. Can he go? Hey, can I go back to back? Can I go back to back for employee of the month? That's the question here.
No,
Can I go
I'm gonna
96,
make this
97?
my report to HR.
Can I go 96, 97? All right, boys. I love this show. This is the greatest day on earth. If you're not liked and subscribed, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Like, what, you know what I mean?
Man.
Absolutely.
Not even just like and subscribe, dude. Be a member. I'm just. This is not a shameless plug. The last week to a week and a half of
great.
our Discord has been the absolute funniest damn thing I've read in a while. Like I crash out early. I go to bed early. I'll wake up. I grab my phone. You usually get your little news updates and things like that. I'm not kidding you guys. The first thing I do is I open the Discord to see what I missed. It is literally the easiest way to wake up and just laugh your ass off to start your day. Like just get in that damn thing. It will literally crack you up with some of the back and forth. Obviously, Soder's dropping hot news with recruiting.
Down South 3-2 just became a member. Look at that. You can't teach that, boys. Look at that. Eat a Dick Racing says, eat a Dick Holly. So this is the greatest show. Hey, get a like, guys. We need 15 more likes before we get 100. Show some love, boys. Let's get there.
Hey. We got to tell them how to get on the Discord, because if you subscribe, there will be a little extra kind of thing that you can look at on YouTube, and the Discord link is in there.
It's in the community post. Yeah, it's in the member post. Yep.
Community
Thank you,
post.
Dave. Austin Simma Saga, hashtag the SIP. So he visited Ole Miss this weekend. I wasn't worried. Thought homeboy just wanted to go hang out with old huddy-tuddy Lane Kiffin Lane Train. Who wouldn't? I'd give a weekend for Lane Train any day of the week. Guy's an absolute legend. Still throwing it down. The guy's 55 years old, still slinging like nobody's business. I'd give him 3 days. But then started to get a little nervous. Some reports coming out that Florida might be dropping the ball here, boys. And I was like, I can't do that, Dave. Dave's over here. We're talking about it. I was like, my heart can't take it, okay? I've already been trying to fight off the demons and the little vultures after the non-hashtag Jubilee weekend. I can't do this, Dave. The show's going to shut down, right? So calm us, Dave. Give us some moments here, because there's possible news that he's leaving Florida and going to Ole Miss. Now he's in Florida today. What the hell is going on, Dave? I'm looking at you, big guy. Got me stressing out. Don't make me bring the breaking news up and pass it over to you.
Yeah. So, long story short, obviously, with every recruitment, as I said at the beginning of the show, got to get the parents on board, right? There seems to be a split between mom and dad. Dad wants to go to Ole Miss, have him go to Ole Miss. Mom wants him at Florida. So there's a misconundrum there. So he goes and visits Ole Miss, has a great time. Everybody's like, okay. And you go on the Ole Miss Rebels 24/7 boards or anywhere, and they're feeling really, really good. They say, oh, there could be a flip. And they're still confident that there could be a flip, which there could be. I'm not going to say that. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. So then you hear news last night that Simmons is going to visit Florida again with mom, maybe dad too. I don't know. And now you're hearing it coming out that, yeah, he's here. And now, so you go and visit Ole Miss, you visit Florida. I've heard things from both sides. So, like, if you go to Ole Miss Rebels 24/7, now I looked earlier today to see if they had any updates, to see if they were saying, okay, well, it's not looking so good now, or if it's not, you don't hear anything. But then if you go to the Florida side of things, you go on some of the boards, they're like, okay, well, it's starting to look good for us now too. So now you're at a spot where, like, it's 50-50. You don't know. But from the Florida side of things, I've heard really good things too. I just can't go into detail. And I think there will be a decision Friday from
Could we get
everything
the suit
that I've
on,
heard.
Davey
So,
Dave?
well, I guess it would feel like a commitment considering he's still
No,
committed,
Dave. At
but
this
then you
point,
had all
bro,
the
like
drama
we're swinging back. We're coming back to full circle. Like we're suiting up.
I-
I'm doing whatever you need
hey,
me to do. Okay.
Hey, I'm posting my Billy video if it happens. So
I'm buying a ticket. I'm buying a ticket with Richard Branson's for Virgin Mobile flight to Moon if we pull this thing off again, back off, however you want to look at it.
yeah.
So
Well, so as I said, there's a ray of hope, I guess, for Florida side, but there's also optimism on the Ole Miss side. So it's kind of one of those things where you just got to kind of wait and see. So
okay, so let me
but he is in
recap.
Florida right now, so that's good news.
The new so Dave's been very. Go ahead, Steve. You have a question? Or I'm
I
you're
was just
recapping
saying,
me.
I was at a recap. So
Thank you.
I'm
So
recapping you. Go ahead.
yeah. So Ole Miss obviously this weekend. Then Dave texted me on Monday, very upset, visibly upset. I think he had to get a new phone because he broke it, just with concern.
tell that to a text? Okay.
Oh yeah, with frustration. I can read Dave like a book. And then this morning, the guy was blowing me up at 5:35. The guy hadn't slept in 2 days, Dave, about this whole entire situation. He's like, things are looking up. I think there was all drama. We're reading Discord pages just like the rest of you guys are. People, who think they're insiders saying, hey, everything's okay. Like you said, mom and daddy drama, that seems to be what's happening here. Austin's, everything's good. Where everything's fine. And that seems to be like where we're at right now is that, hey, it was all kind of a quick little hoorah. No big deal. Maybe a little splash in the pan, a little splash in the sip. Little Lane just doing what Lane does. Just stirring the pot a little bit. You know what I mean? Nothing to worry here. Just a quick little tweet, little jab from Lane Kiffin. Playing games. Everyone relax. Everything's going to be okay. Is that a good synopsis there, Dave?
Yeah, well, he needs to worry about recruiting defense more than offense. So
And then Dave with the jab. Okay, we're right back to business, boys. Back to business.
Look, Dave's back in
We're
the
back
groove right now. Look, Joey Freshwater's going to Joey Freshwater, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Lane Kiffin's going to throw his line in the water. Right, so I mean, look, he's maybe just fishing for a quarterback. I wonder. Look, I mean, there's been so much talk with Simmons about potentially reclassifying and whether or not he would be eligible and all the different things that he's going to do with his recruitment. It feels a little awkward that all of a sudden another team would jump in this late with all of the back and forth on what this kid's going to do with his own eligibility, and then another team comes in and be like, well, hold on, and then like he's like, well, yeah, then I'll just go there. Sure. I know it feels awkward for Florida fans. It just feels like a little bit late to maybe be moving a chess piece here. But I hope it all falls apart for them.
A couple things we need to chat. 10-month celebration from Andrew Apple says, "Go Gators!" Lincoln and Mama, him and his mom have made it home. 10 months there, boys, of being part of this family to another level. Love
Andrew,
it.
what's up, baby?
Gage Manish is Waltez champ to UF. Love Waltez. We had him on the show. Great kid. I don't think he's coming to UF, but would love to see him there. IB Mac gifted One Sports membership to the family, and it got to Adrian. So, Adrian, welcome to the family, big guy. Good stuff there.
Finally, this guy.
Look at this.
Been around
you know what I mean?
for a minute, Adrian.
Can I gift this membership to a Seminole? No, Harlan. We got enough of you assholes in here. Let's see here. You guys are talking some smack. Okay, good stuff. If I miss anything, sorry.
Let me get my final word in.
Sorry.
Get my final word.
Oh shit.
So the reason why I was steamed is because I
So
heard,
you were mad.
well,
So I was right.
yeah, I was. Did you see the timeline?
This is good.
I was with him. I just didn't post it on my timeline. But yeah, I was pretty irritated, and I was talking to a lot of guys, and they talk about how Urban Meyer was like, when you visited Florida, you either committed or if you did commit, you couldn't commit anywhere else, or you would have to commit, like you got to close it out, right? Like I was told Florida wasn't in the position to do that. And then on top of that, I was like, well, Florida isn't in a position to lose elite recruits against Ole Miss either. So that's my take on it.
There it is, boys.
If you're losing elite recruits or any recruits to Ole Miss and you're Florida, there's an issue there.
I agree. I think that there's something to be said there. The Heat are up by 2 against the Nuggets. I've got my dollar bills on the Heat tonight, so I'll keep moving.
But just real fast to back that up to what we just talked about with Nick and Will. I mean, look, it's a bidding war now, and it's free agency. Like, what's the benefit? Okay, so look, when Urban Meyer was around, he could tell you you're either going to shut down your recruitment or I'm going to find somebody who will replace you. Now, if a coach says that to a kid, he's going to give him the finger and tell him to good luck finding my replacement because I've got a ton of other bidders. You can't recruit the same way anymore. That might have worked then. It doesn't work now.
Sure.
Well, Miami's done it, and then Tennessee's starting to get up there too. So, and they haven't won anything in a long time.
It's not about winning, though. It's just a different approach to recruiting. Like the player has more ability and more authority in the recruiting process than they ever have in the history of high school.
I agree with that.
Real quick, that's not what I'm trying to click. 10-month celebration from Tristan Creel says, I'm ready for Friday Night Lights. So are we. We're going to be there again and hopefully have a good time. Working on getting Media Pass. They hate us here at High Top Sports, so it's tough for us to get one. But Mojo with JoJo. Josiah Trader, who is teammates with Jeremiah Smith, top-tier wide receiver. This is moving into FSU talk, boys. But look, it's good to know what your enemy's doing. So don't be like, stop. We got to talk. I got to let Steve have his moment.
It's not my moment. You guys need to know what's going on here. I mean,
I think because Josiah, we've had talks with him too. So let's at this top-tier wide receiver, and we just lost one of our targets, TJ Moore at Clemson. So we're not of dudes here if Jeremiah doesn't flip over. So what's going on with JoJo here, guy?
Look, he's making a visit to Tallahassee this weekend. It's not an official visit, but look, Trader, in case anybody is not keeping up with JoJo's recruitment, he is the number 5 overall recruit in the state of Florida. He is the number 2 wide receiver in the state of Florida, and that is only behind none other than Mr. Jeremiah Smith, who you just mentioned. Look, Trader's been tagged as a heavy Miami lean for a while, but it just seems that there is more and more smoke with his recruitment, and that FSU was starting to play a bigger role as the weeks and months go on. This is his 3rd unofficial visit to FSU, which the only school who's had more unofficial visits by Trader is Miami, who he's local to. He's literally just outside of the campus. So he's had 3. This will be his 3rd visit to FSU. He's had 5 to Miami. Now, I'm not saying I expect a commitment this weekend or anything like that, but it definitely shows that there is a high level of interest coming from his side of things. And obviously his recruitment is not over. So I would say look for FSU here to make a little bit of racket. It's not going to be instant gratification. The kid's not walking out of there off of an unofficial visit, making a commitment to the Noles. But I would say this is far from being a Miami lock. And I know for right now, for what Miami is dealing with some of their players right there in the Miami area, one of which having gone to Louisville in TJ Capers, the linebacker. Jeremiah Smith, obviously, we're all fighting over, but that's like another kid who's just right outside of Miami. There's a ton of talent right out in the backyard, and they can't seem to get any of it in there. So if Miami isn't able to lock down Trader, that could be a massive loss for Cristobal, who's supposed to be this premier recruiter, to not even be able to put a fence around his own city.
Yeah, look, I think you. What's the Cronkite is your quarterback? Did I say that right?
Cromanhook. Yeah,
that's what I said. Look, I think he's moving up in the tiers of quarterbacks. You wouldn't put him in the same tier at the moment. This is not taking a jab here, and I would say like the Aaron Nolan. I think he's close to Aaron Nolan, but the Raiolas, the Lagways, but he's in that Elite 11 camp, and so we'll see how that plays out. That's coming up here in just a few days. And look, that could help you. I mean, you got the number 1 tight end coming. You got the top tier running back coming. You're putting together a healthy class. I've been saying it. I hate to say it, but Look, this could be kind of like that trifecta that Will and Nick were just talking about with Florida when they had that catalyst class with Tebow, Brandon Spikes, and Percy Harvin, right? Your big three that kind of really got things going here. Well, this could be part of that big 3/big 4. So good stuff. Good for you guys. And Tim Lombardi, what's up, Bubba? Good to see you, man.
The one thing I will say about JoJo is that it somewhat concerns me, right? Because let's just say hypothetically that Trader flips from Miami. I'm just calling him a Miami heavy lean. So let's just say he comes to the good guys being FSU. That would give Florida State 5 wide receiver commitments just in this class alone. And we already have, freshmen and redshirt sophomores currently sitting on our roster as it is. Sure. It's not exactly an empty wide receiver room.
Sure.
What concerns me is, look, I would love to get Trader. I would love to see that eventually he ends up signing with the Garnet and Gold. But I believe that if that does end up happening, that one of these 4 wide receiver commitments that we have now could end up seeing that's too many bodies in one place. So we'll see what happens, but somebody like a TJ Abrams could potentially decommit and go somewhere else. And I know that Florida's had some interest in him. LaWayne McCoy, another 4-star wide receiver here in the state, could potentially move on to somewhere else if he feels that there's too many bodies. So I would keep an eye on this JoJo Trader thing if you're a Florida fan, certainly if you're an FSU fan, because that could cause a little bit of a ripple effect, because it's a lot of bodies for one class at that same position. Good. Sorry.
No, good shit. Good talk. And then any more tribal news outside of JoJo that you want to give your people?
Look, I mean, we had a class or a group this weekend that came in. It was certainly not a weekend of balloon animals or, Jim, Joe, Bill, Bob, or whatever the hell that defensive coordinator is going on just doing bad karaoke. It was not that kind of weekend for Florida State, but we definitely focused on quality over quantity. So we had 5 visitors, all 4 stars. A kid out of Louisiana, Wardell Mack. Super heavy LSU lean. It's very, very difficult to get kids out of LSU, but it sounds like he had a great time. Well. We'll see how that one shoots out. But I mean, we need players at that position. Again, wide receiver, you feel like there's already so many folks there. But I feel like the offensive lineman that came in, Nair Daniels, from I want to say West Virginia, he's a heavy Penn State lean. But it sounds like there was certainly some traction that was made in his visit this weekend. It was an official visit to Tallahassee. Look, Penn State, I got to be honest with you, I'm not keeping up with what the hell Penn State's doing up there. I know Franklin's a good recruiter. They've been building. They've had some momentum in recruiting. But Nair Daniels is certainly somebody I would keep an eye on at the offensive line position. And then lastly, and then we'll move on from this. FSU is terribly void at the linebacker position, terribly void. We had a linebacker in, a 4-star linebacker, Edwin Spillman, came in, official visit. I believe he's a Tennessee lean, if I'm not mistaken. But the kid's already 6'1", 220. That's a good size kid. I mean, that's an edge rusher for some teams, and he's a traditional linebacker. I'd like to see that we got a little bit of traction out of him. There's been a couple of interviews. I know Warchant did an interview with him. He's a quiet kid, so you're not going to get a whole lot. There's not going to be a whole lot of social media going on with him. But I would keep an eye on Edwin Spillman. I'd like to see that we could potentially knock down a couple more linebackers, because we certainly need bodies at that position.
Good stuff. Good to hear all that for you guys. Tristan trying to get us canceled here. Says, is it fear the spear or smear the queer? This is a super chat from there, Tristan. I love the jab. Good stuff, man. Good talk. But look, let's also talk about UCF. Hashtag bounce house. This was, so first of all, I got a couple bones to pick here. Old man, my man Gus rocking the space onesie. Know your role, big guy. That's my thing. Okay, so. You look cheesy in it, okay? I pull it off. Mine's orange, by the way, so it's certified. You're clearly rookie status in your white one. That's all I got to say about that. But they had a hell of a weekend, dude. So I learned today. I became more knowledgeable. I kept seeing hashtag bounce house. I thought there was a bounce house at this recruiting weekend, and I'm like, I haven't seen one photo of a bounce house. I didn't realize that was the name of their stadium. That's my fault. I was like, what is this? What's going on bounce house? Like, what are we doing, boys? Like, what's happening here? They're doing a phenomenal job. I keep forgetting that they're in the Big 12. They are now a real football team. And what I mean by that is they're no longer in the Conference USA where they're going to be taken seriously. And it's not a jab. I'm not taking a shot here. It's just that's facts. They got crystal ball for Stacey Gage, 4-star running back, top-tier running back. Florida's been looking at this kid, Ohio State, Oklahoma. He's been kind of passing. He's been bouncing all over the place. I don't know how solidified that crystal ball is. It's from On3. Stacey Gage seems like kind of one who'll kind of just say whatever. Yeah, I loved it. And I'm sure he did. A lot of kids are loving UCF right now. They got a lot of good things going for them. One, they have the potential to really take over the Big 12, especially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. I think it kind of leaves it open. They've been very competitive over the last few years. You can't knock them on that. You have Gus there as the head coach, a proven champion, won back with Auburn, so it's not like you got to slouch a head coach there. And look, in a sense of recruiting, something Georgia, the Bamas, they don't struggle with this because of Georgia and Bama. I think Florida may struggle sometimes with that we're afraid to go away from the culture of Florida football, that we don't throw in a spicy uniform every now and then. And kids like that shit. Like, that is what it is. UCF doesn't have any ties to any culture or any history. They got blue unis coming out. They got space unis. Kids love that shit. I don't care what you say. I know the fans, you guys think it's stupid. Think about the kids that are showing up there. They got 2026 guys going in, 2027 guys going in. These are kids. These are 10th and 9th graders going to the space campus, Space U, that they got Lambos lined up on the football field. They get to try on different uniforms. I was telling Steve today, when the spaceship goes off, it's over the 50-yard line. Like my two brothers, they went there, both of them there. One's 2026 quarterback, and the other one is a 2028, I think, 2029, 2028, I believe. He's a lineman right now / tight end. He loves UCF. Both of them do. I asked him, if you had to go somewhere right now, where would you pick? And they go, honestly, UCF showed us a lot of love. Think about it. They're getting to these kids young. They're getting to it early. Now they're in the Big 12. They're a Power 5 conference. Probably in the Big 12 is going to be, you could put it up there. If you're ranking the Power 5s, you got SEC, Big 10. ACC is still number 3, but Big 12's over the Pac-12 in my opinion. So, look, UCF is doing some good stuff, man. It's cool to see another Florida school doing really, really well. But also, too, Billy's competition just got a lot thicker, too, boys. Dave, what's your thoughts, man? I know you love UCF.
Yeah, man. You said that there's something that shoots you in the air at the 50-yard line. Like
spaceship goes. The spaceship. You fuck with me.
Is it an actual spaceship?
Yeah, from the Kennedy space. I forgot. You live in Georgia, from Cape Canaveral.
Yeah,
when the spaceship goes off. When the spaceship goes off, you're sitting on the 50-yard line. It goes right over the 50-yard line. It's actually pretty sweet. It's a pretty cool photo.
That's pretty cool. Does it catapult them to their fake natties that they won past like 5 years?
See, I told you.
You set me up for that, Dave.
What?
See, I said earlier
already
today when you were talking about whether or not this was going to come up at all. Oh my gosh! No, it's not that I got hot. It's just because I called it. I said, Shelton, if we talk about UCF, it's an SEC group a lot that comes into the chat. It's impossible to talk about UCF to an SEC fan without being fake natty guys. Okay, yeah, I remember them.
So look, I do gotta look. UCF fans, there's a few that suck. One in particular is Jeremy Larson. The guy's an idiot. Okay, he thinks that UCF is the greatest thing since sliced bread because of their natty championship. UCF fans remind me of like your CrossFit guy. Like they just can't stop talking about it. Like we get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Act like you've been there before. So
like
to be fair,
guy.
You know what that original
guy who never stops talking about Bitcoin. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Bitcoin and UCF. It's like a cocktail of fail.
So Gus Malzahn caused all that mess, and now he's with them. So if you can't beat him, you just join him.
I love it.
That's true.
Jay says black.
We're not in this conversation.
Jay says the black uniforms are raising money for troops. It's amazing. I didn't know that. That's actually really cool. Look, Florida does dip their toe into a fun uni every now and then, but a school like UCF, there's no history to really keep them in reign. Like they got blue and white uniforms. Like what the hell is that coming from? It's like we do what we want.
In all seriousness, they have up their talent profile over there at UCF.
Very much, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and they got DeMarcus Bowman too.
Yeah, the running back from Florida. Yeah, look, dude, they're not
an elite running back. So, I mean, like I think it's a good move. As you said, with Oklahoma and Texas coming out, I mean, they can contend in that conference. And like all joking aside, like I don't really take them that serious because that's just me. But like for them to be able to move to another conference, get out of the Conference USA, it'll actually put them more in a national title hunt, maybe, in a different conference like that, as opposed to Conference USA. And that's what they want. They want to actually play for an actual national championship, not have to make one up. So that's the perfect move right there, is to go to another conference like that.
Just can't do it. They can't.
I love
they
it.
Can't talk about it without just making the jab.
All right, we got a couple things left. I appreciate you guys again always hanging out with us on a beautiful Wednesday night. I mean, for the fact that we can bump with 150 strong on Wednesday, I love it. Even especially with the NBA Finals going on. So really appreciate you guys. Drop a like. We broke 100 likes, which is really cool. Didn't even have to ask for it this time. Love where we're headed, and we got a dislike, meaning we got extra love from you guys. So I love. We got both directions covered, up and down. The next thing is, and this, some of you might find this very interesting. Some of you may not care. I think it's a really cool. It shows one where we're just headed with money and how money is really starting to take over. I think the PGA and the LIV combining this past or just the other day really shows you just where we are as a society, and that literally there is money buys everything. When people say that I don't have a budget, bullshit. It doesn't exist anymore. I feel like back in the day, I don't know, maybe the money wasn't there. Saudi's coming, boys. Unfortunately, like they're taking over one step by step, dip by dip. The PGA, I'm not excited to see where it's headed. I'm glad that the boys are back together. We got the band back together in the sense of like Brooks and these guys are allowed to play with each other again. That part excites me, and I'm getting a little off the tangent here. I apologize, but I don't know where it's going to head. I'm a little nervous, but we'll see. Anyways, NIL Prep Super League. This league is being put together by another billionaire. That is poised to start next spring, around this time, 2024. And what it is, from what I gathered, you guys kind of read off. If I'm wrong, let me know. It's going to take 4- and 5-star talent, incoming freshmen to college, so they're still seniors in high schools, and going to create a 6-week season. So put together some teams with these 4- and 5-star talent studs and run a league, basically run a full season. Have a games champion, etc. They're bringing in old NFL coaches, ex-players, XFL coaches, USFL coaches to come coach these teams. So legit stuff, a really high-end super league with the idea being of amplifying these young men's NIL value even more than it already is, giving them another step. Honestly, it feels like so you got high school, college, then pro, right? It's just a bush league. It's a minor league now. That's how I feel like what it's going to turn into. I mean, to be honest with you, high school football could kind of lose its swagger. I think it's already losing it a little bit with these camps because kids go play. They'll play these football. I mean, Marcus Stokes is a prime example. Like, his rating didn't come from playing at Nice. It came from going to a camp. That's where he got the most recognition. That's where all the juice came from. These camps are really, pushing these kids. The high school games gives them obviously reps with pads and being rushed, and obviously there's still some value there. Don't get it twisted. I'm not an idiot, but it's starting to turn more into where these kids are starting to get groomed a lot sooner as well too. High school football isn't what it used to be. Dave?
Yeah, I looked at kind of that whole concept. Of course, the full concept's not going to really be out, I guess, till next year or whatever that timeline is. But like, I mean, I read a little bit about it. They say that like people that play at IMG Academy could get up to like 80,000. And it's supposed to be like you said, it was 6 games and
6 weeks. 6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6 weeks and you're playing full pad football games. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yeah. That's my understanding of it.
My deal with that is, how much are you going to give them? And is it worth the risk of injury before you get to college to actually play in those games on top of a regular season in high school? So
how different is it from them playing on 7-on-7? I mean, sure, the injuries have been tackled.
Well, they're not tackling each other.
Yeah, you can blow an ACL and all that stuff on 7-on-7. But the thing right now, the linemen really don't have cool camps like this for themselves. Like, there isn't 7-on-7 camps that are helping elevate these linemen. Or even really tight ends, to be honest. I mean, I guess the tight ends play on 7-on-7, but running backs, they have their own camps. And I know O-linemen have their camps. Like, I know they do. Just not to the same level as the 7-on-7. So this would allow for those linemen to get some more recognition as well, too, and bump their value up. But I hear you. I think that young of an age, I mean, those kids are playing football somewhere.
It could be a double-edged sword. I mean, like, if you want to make that money, play those 6 games or whatever concept that you have there for those 6 weeks and at least elevate your talent level. I mean, you could get more recognized by other schools. That's the good part about it. You can make money while you're doing it through NIL, but at the same time, you're risking injury, you're risking all that other kind of stuff. So it's kind of like what kind of lottery ticket do you want to scratch, right? I mean, like you said, on 7-on-7s, you can like tear an ACL, you can blow out a knee, you can do all that other kind of stuff. But like the risk of doing that is much greater playing tackle football. So I mean, I guess it's up to the kids and obviously the parents. I mean, I think it's a good thing, but you're just taking that extra risk. And is the risk worth the reward is what you got to kind of like. I think kids will jump on it and do it. I mean, I think they will.
I think the reward is much greater than the risk. They're still playing football and having an opportunity to get hurt. They're just not, they're playing spring ball, right? Now they get to go paid to go do it. Holly?
Yeah, I mean.
Look, so I mean, look, the fact that the league is being started by the founder of the USFL, it tells me that he understands what it takes to get something off the ground, right?
Yeah.
So it's not for somebody like that. We're past the conceptual phase. Like this guy is going to be all in on it.
Real quick to cut you off, just because a good point to that. I think that's a great point because starting the USFL is not an easy task to do because there's competition involved. With this, there really is no competition. But the fact that he proved that he can do it and create something like that in a very harsh environment, yeah, you're like, this isn't like just a conceptual idea. This is going to happen is kind of what you're saying. Yeah, good point.
Right, absolutely. But where I think that he's going to maybe find a little bit of a stumbling block here is that NIL is still regulated very heavily by the individual states.
Yeah.
So, for example, for Florida, Georgia, and Ohio don't allow high school kids to sign and start profiting from NIL yet. I think they have to be in college and enrolled in college for NIL to actually take effect. So if, from what I understand, the teams have already been established in Atlanta, Georgia, Cleveland, Ohio, Miami, Florida, Tampa, Florida. So you've got 5 teams out of a group of 12 that exist within the 3 states that don't allow you to get paid. And those are 3 heavily populated states of talent.
So I don't know.
It could be some stopgaps there. It just feels like the concept is great, but until there's some conformity across the college football platform to let these kids, regardless of where you happen to play football and put your cleats in the dirt, the NIL is going to have to start being somewhat uniform before this is really going to have the traction that I'm sure he wants it to have.
Yeah, look, I think there's going to be some cool pros that come from this. Look, I mean, we follow high school kids now to see them. Imagine if we were able to see Raiola have his team and Lagway have his team. I'm sure recruiting is going to have an impact on that, right? Imagine Lagway and Smith got teamed up together. Just one more opportunity to kind of help.
It's kind of like the Under Armour All-American game 6 times.
Yeah, that's exactly what Steve and I were saying with a little more seriousness though, because that game is just kind of off the rip. It's just more of like a recognition, but this game might have some value to it, or it will, because I'm sure there's going to be something that comes with winning, and now you can pay these kids, so you can say, hey, the winning team gets $500,000 to split amongst the 11 people. Like that's kind of what you're looking at.
And your sample size isn't just one game. Like let's just take the Under Armour game.
Yeah.
Like you've got a bunch of really good players. But they're playing one game, right? So now you're talking about, can you perform on a level of consistency with that talent around you?
Yeah.
We talk a lot about whether or not the kid who's a 4-star kid coming out of high school, what the talent level that they're playing against in order for them to put up these stats. Now, you're going to have these kids playing against the nothing but the top level of talent. And it's not just one game where one kid might have a great game and just goes off and he looks amazing. Now he's got to be able to continue to do that game after game after game after that against that top level talent. If they are able to do that against that level of talent consistently over that period of time, I mean, it just skip college altogether if you can. Just go NBA style. It just goes straight in.
Yeah, that's what makes it really cool. That concept is like you really get to see who the best player is in the class, because you see those you see them play high school football against kids that aren't rated as high as they are. And they look amazing, and then you watch the Under Armour All-American games. It's one game, and people are kind of just having fun. But like to see them actually play against each other, all these top recruits play against each other. It even makes it even more, I guess, more open to the schools to know who actually really is good or not. So,
no, I think there's some pros out of it.
Guy, it's like, did I recruit the right guy, or does he need work? And in some schools, obviously, will still keep the kid and say, well, he just needs further development. It gives them a better idea of what they're getting into when they get to school. So I guess it's a cool concept. I just I don't know if that's going to last or not because of the injury factor and all that, but we'll see.
I think it'll obviously getting invited to that league is going to have some big hype. Maybe not the first season, but over time, I think it will as well. And real quick, kudos to Jacob. So make sure you guys hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. I mean, how could you not? It's a great show. Last but not least, NCAA sports. This broke today. Holly, this is your thing here, Bubba. Holly's still playing NCAA 14 on repeat, and obviously there was within 48 hours, it went from really cool to really bad. 48 hours, I feel like it broke where it was hey, the kids involved are going to be able to get paid for their NIL for them being in the game. They're like, oh, awesome, this is good. It's exactly what the kids need. The kids are like, yeah, that's not enough money. We're not going to do it anymore. Steve?
Yeah, so look, I mean, the whole thing with the NCAA, I mean, they haven't made a game in almost a decade, which, let me just be completely honest with you, I was a savant at that video game. I would pull 3 or 4 TVs out of my house, bring them into the living room. I'd have my buddies over. We'd have tournaments. It was a bonding experience that I have not had since they stopped making this damn thing. And it's all because of Ed O'Bannon. And if you don't know who Ed O'Bannon is, he was a washed up car salesman that wasn't making any money and realized that he was a video game. And he got pissed that he wasn't making any money. And that's why we now have the NIL. But look, what it boils down to is the EA Sports has essentially put the development into making a new game because NIL does exist now where it didn't before. There was a massive lawsuit from Ed O'Bannon, that piece of crap, where they settled in 2016. EA Sports settled with 29,000 players that had been represented in their video games, and each player got an average of $1,200 per. That was about $34.5 million for that settlement. EA Sports freaked out and said, we're not making another damn video game because all we're going to do is get sued every single year for more money. So they stopped. NIL fixed that problem, right? Because now the players can get paid. So the initial offering by EA Sports was that each player would get $500 for their likeness in a video game. I'll read just a quick quote as to what the college football players' lead representative had to say about the initial offering from EA Sports. And this is a quote. All current players should boycott this deal. It is an opt-in deal, and they should not opt in. It is just ridiculously low amount of money. Given context and the hype that surrounds this game, we at first heard the number. We're like, all right, that sounds low. Let's go figure out if it's low compared to the market. We started talking to guys. I talked to some friends, some guys who were still playing in the NFL. They asked, what did Madden pay you? In 2019, a player on a roster, an active NFL roster, received $17,000 for their likeness in the game. As of last year, that number had gone up to $28,000. So, of course, the representative for the college football players is saying $500. Are you kidding me? So now we have this massive deficit between where Madden is playing professional players versus what EA Sports wants to play amateur players. But just real fast to put numbers into perspective here, there are 125 Division I college football teams. There are 32 NFL teams. There are 85 players on a college team. There are 55 players on an NFL team. So the disparity between the sheer numbers of players and how much you would have to pay them in order to make this game or EA Sports make it realistic for the players, it's impossible to do based on the standards of Madden. Let's also not forget that these guys haven't accomplished being professional athletes in that small of professional sports yet. So look, we are terribly close to EA Sports finally saying, here, kids who are 10 or 11 years old have never understood the concept of being able to play on NCAA football your favorite college team or your favorite college football player. You've never got to hear the war chant in a college football game. You've never got to see the Gators song. Damn it, players, stop. You're getting money left and right from the NIL. You're getting money from every direction that these teams can throw at you. You're getting sponsorship deals. And now EA Sports wants to put a video game out and they're like, hey, $500. No. I am so damn frustrated by it. It's because, one, I love the game. But two,
Sure.
like, come on, man. Like, how much would my kid love to be able to pick up the controller and play a game as FSU? Or, let's be honest, Tiger. He would love to be able to pick up that game in a couple years and just bang out a game or a season or a dynasty or be a creative player on EA Sports. But until we get this straight, it's just not going to happen.
So I think a couple things. I think 500 is a little low. I don't think they should be at 28,000. But look, I think this game is going to be highly profitable, especially just with all the noise surrounding it. You definitely could probably give a grand. 500 does seem a little bit low. That's not even gas anymore. But, I mean, you can't expect any more than that. I mean, you're one small piece to the puzzle. And if you got a kid, think big picture here. Think about, look, it's getting your name on your name into a game that, look, if your favorite kid wants to play with you, maybe he starts using you in the game. You're really good at the game. They give you like a cheat jute stick or whatever. He goes and buys one of your jerseys, whatever it may be. Like it's going to translate more than just the game. You shouldn't think that this EA Sports thing was going to make me a ton of money. That's not the object of EA Sports. Like that's not how this thing works. They're helping you build your brand as well. It's a team thing here, and I guess you can make the argument both ways. But yeah, I think that we got to find a happy medium. What sucks is that with all this, I feel like lately here, with the SEC not going to 9 games, with the NIL situation, the fans are really starting to lose. It feels like we're kind of taking the L on everything. And look, I think it's great these kids are getting paid, but at the end of the day, the ones you can't forget. I think there's a couple of people that know this truly, and that I always try to make sure that you remember that mindset. What's his name? Kyle Petty, NASCAR driver. And Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, those guys always knew the reason why we're here is because of the fans. So those 3 guys, and they're probably more, but I'm just talking about like kind of the old G's. They would always take the time to show love, take pictures, sign autographs, etc. for the fans because they understood without them, we are nobody. And I think we're getting away from that. And these college kids aren't understanding that. It's like, look, without us, this NIL thing doesn't even exist. So don't burn us. Right? Unfortunately, it's a monopoly. Like, what the hell else are we going to go do come fall? But same thing with these colleges. Like, hey, don't burn us. We're the reason you guys exist. Don't forget that the reason you're able to throw this money around and build these new nice stadiums and do all these things is the ones that you're screwing over. So just slow down for a little bit. Give us a W here. You know what I mean? That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I'm all about like free money if you're just going to like put me in a video game and I have to do nothing. But at the same time, I think 500 is way too low. But like you said, like paying them a whole ton of money, like 18 grand or whatever you said, it's like I think that's way too much too. But I don't know, man. I hope they can resolve something because I know, like I haven't played any of the football games back then because I didn't get time to play video games because I worked a lot back then. But like I know a lot of people liked this game and they want them to make another NCAA game. So why not just give the fans what they want? Considering we're not getting anything else that we want, at least give us a video game that we can have that's updated on a current system, like the PS5 or whatever system that you have out there. Give the fans what they want, man. I mean, it's just that simple.
Give us a W, boys. We need a W.
We need a W.
We need a W. We really do. Gator fans in particular. We need.
And hopefully we get a W this weekend.
Yeah, we need one for baseball too. Boys and girls, fantastic show. I hope you guys enjoyed the graphics. I put a lot of work into it. These guys don't appreciate it, but I appreciate you guys do. Love you guys as always for hanging out with us on those Wednesday. Show just shed a tear to my eye. Appreciate that, Harlan. Love you guys again. I can't say that enough. I do appreciate every last one of you guys. You guys mean a lot to me and to us for coming out and hanging out with us, showing your likes, dropping your likes, subscribing. It makes Wednesdays best day of the week in and week out. I get fired up to do these shows. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Hopefully you'll hear from one of us We do have a show tomorrow with Kendall Hollywood Jackson at 3:30. We are going to be doing an interview with him. So turn the bell on if you guys want to hear him talk. He's down to his top 6 schools. So we'll talk about his recruiting, what's been going on. Obviously, he was at Jubilee Weekend. Get his thoughts on that. So stay tuned. But you guys have a good weekend. Go Heat. Until next time, I am Shelton.
I'm Holly.
And I am the Dave Meister.
Boogity, 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 boys. Love y'all.